Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Rubber and Chrome. Today we've got another bike on the lift. This is a customer's bike. It was bought after the previous owner laid it over. So we're going to be taking a look at it, getting some things replaced that were slightly damaged when it hit the ground. We're going to be cleaning up some cosmetic things on it and making sure that this thing can brake and shift and throttle everything smoothly before we give it back to our customer to put it back on the road. So without any further ado, let's jump straight into it. This is Rubber and Chrome. All right, some of the major concerns on this bike are the fact that this dual heel toe shifter got very bent up. The customer does not necessarily want the heel shifter. So with this one being a single model part instead of two-piece part, or a single-piece part model instead of a two-piece part model, we're gonna have to do some cosmetic cutting to get it to look stock, get it to look like it's supposed to just be one forward toe shifter. So let's go ahead and get that pulled off. He's already supplied us with a brand new shifter arm so that we can replace the bent one that is on the bike. We are going to need to remove the kill switch, neutral safety, kickstand safety switch, sensor housing, and get some of that out of the way, as well as some cosmetic grinding and sanding on some of the metal bits to get them back to their factory location. This floorboard should sit down a little more flat, but it's being held up by some of the damaged material in there. So we'll get that cleaned off and back to where it's supposed to be elevation wise. And this thing should go back on the road, no problem. We are not worried about any paint or any of that. All we're doing to this bike is making sure that it is 100% running and ready to be ridden. Cosmetic things after that are up to the customer. So let's get started and pull this shifter arm off. I've already loosened the 10mm bolt off the back. Shifter just slides straight off of the footboard housing. Now I'm going to go ahead and remove the two bolts that hold the footboard bracket onto the frame, and we will get that footboard off and do a little cosmetic dentistry. I think a power ratchet is definitely in my future. Very bent hardware. This bolt is very bent. Now we can get the shifter lever off of the shift arm. Be careful there not to hit anything. And it should just spin right off. Just like that. Our shifter is off. All right, we're gonna be cutting this off. What we need to keep is the toe side. We also need to keep this bushing. So everything past this bushing backwards can all get cut off. And as you can see, it is very bent and marred. So we'll get this cut and cleaned up. We'll also get this shifter arm changed out. Normally wouldn't bother with taking this bolt all the way out of this shifter spline mechanism, but since we're putting a new one on, I'm going to, I'm going to inspect this bolt, make sure this bolt's not bent. But I'm going to want to try to reuse this bolt. I think it's bent. Yeah, it's bent. I was going to try to reuse that bolt. Okay, well, good news is the new one came with one that threads in very nicely. So, no need for that. All right, now when these splines are pretty messed up, it can be a little difficult. I normally would not use a metal hammer on a motorcycle, but what I'm gonna try to do is get the claws of this behind this. This is what we're trying to get off here, this exact part here. So this has splines in it that line up with the shift shaft. Trying to pull this off, and I can't get to it from behind it to hit it out. So I'm going to try to put the claws on this old part. Since I don't need the old part, I'm not worried about marring the old part. And I'm going to try to get it to where I can put the hammer on a bolt, not a actual part, but on a head of a bolt, and pry this out. So we'll see how this goes. Yeah, just like that. Now, didn't have to tap on anything, didn't have to mar up anything. The head of that bolt is fine. I'm gonna get a wire brush and clean off this spline shaft just in case any metal transferred from one part to the other. ASMR for you. All right. Now, before we finish that up, I do want to get this shifter arm taken care of and get some more research done on exactly how, what the angle is supposed to look like on this shifter arm. So let's go ahead and bust out the grinder and get to cutting. I've got this taped up where I want to cut it. I don't want to cut that hard tape edge, so I'm going to cut this tape to match the circle here. Something like so. The plan here is to cut off this side, keep this side. Alright guys, I think I'm going to call it a night right there. We did get a little bit of progress on the Honda, but I need to eat something and get inside and get some rest. So I will catch you guys in the morning. Peace. Alright, so we just got back to the shop. We went out to get bolts for this Honda for a customer, we had to stop at the van store, come on. So we're gonna open up these new vans, see what they look like, but let's get these bolts on this bike first, start getting some parts back on this bike, and then we'll take a look at what I got at the van store. All right, so we grabbed the bolts, we hunted them down at Advanced Auto Parts. They're kind of a automotive specialty bolt, and I didn't want to go to the Honda shop and pay what I paid for 3 bolts for 1 bolt. So we're gonna run these grade 8s, and these will work just fine for what we need. So let me get you guys on a tripod and we'll start getting some of the footboards back on the bike. I did give the bracket a fresh new shiny gloss black paint job after cleaning up all of the road rash off of it. So let's get this stuff back together, and yeah, we'll keep moving forward. All right, so we are going to press the shifter onto the bracket, just like so. Bracket is going to, actually, I think that's backwards. Like so. That looks more better. Get a bolt in this hole. Get a bolt in this hole. You're always going to want to line up your bolts and hand tighten them down a little bit at a time. You don't want to torque one down with one loose. Your bracket will start to get off center. You'll start to pull one side down all the way and the other's not sat down. You're not gonna get that plate to sit flush. So you just want to tighten them down little by little at a time. And we want to make sure that we have proper clearance. Maybe off with this shifter. Hold on. All right, we're gonna take the shifter off for a second. Get this bracket up here first, because I may need to clearance more of that shifter, depending on how this shifter rod needs to go. So. Come back and tighten this other side a little bit, so that we're not torquing it sideways. Alright, now that both of them are sat down, we can go ahead and give them a tighten down. And we will final torque these later. Just gonna get them good and tight right now. Alright, so I figured out there's a pin on the inside of this. So the actual through pin has to go through this way. So let's mount that real quick. And these holes up is going to be fine. Grab them out. And we put this on, tap that pin. Coming? No goal? Great, bro. Oh, it is. I see what the problem is. I gotta go through the spring. There we go. Okay. Now try it. Bueno. All right, thanks, sir. All right, sometimes it's a two-man job. Don't let your boss tell you otherwise. Oh, but that doesn't need to grab right there. That's that hollow spot. Just needs to. There we go. Yeah, they got this store in the mall that's just exotic snacks. Yeah, it's gonna be 10. All right, shifter bolt tightened down. Still looks pretty kicked, to be honest, compared to that side. Yeah, see, I didn't rebend the bracket, I just cleaned it up and repainted it. And it is still a little kicked up, but that's a whole lot better. This right here. Well, what's it feel like for the foot? Granted, these are composite toe boots. Definitely doesn't feel bad. Alright, so we're getting this battery situation figured out. A little bit of a sketchy situation in here on the positive side, but also the negative is just a self-tapping screw. So, there you go. Yeah, no, that's not good.
You said something about the start button not working?
We got power. I don't know what he said about any of that. If it doesn't work, how's he start? Ain't got a no horn. So how you started it?
Maybe. Oh, I know. They aren't it off this. What it looks like. The evidence shows.
Mm-hmm.
Stick it like a pry bar.
Yeah, this motherfucker might be stolen. Where's the camera at? Yep. Mm-hmm. They got a key, but the switch don't work, so we just gonna.
It's doing something because it cuts.
Yeah.
It cuts your headlight when you start.
This back here is
It's flickering. It's flickering, Bo.
All right, guys, our customer came by this afternoon with a new battery. So we've got the brand new battery all hooked up, and we chased down an issue with the starter button. We have got it dialed back to the starter solenoid. The customer was having to trip the solenoid with a screwdriver. And when I tested the switch was a little corroded, and I cleaned it up, got power coming from the switch to the solenoid, but the solenoid was just not doing anything. If that's ever the case and you're able to still trip the solenoid with a screwdriver to start the bike, more than likely you can just replace that solenoid with a $30, $40 part and be good to go. So I had a spare one here at the shop. I've thrown it on there. We will give the key a turn. We do have headlight there. Let me show you guys on the wall. Headlights on. Kill switch is turned off. And nothing, or sorry, kill switch turned on, nothing to the switch. Kill switch turned off. Yes, sir. So we got that issue solved. We have as much done with the brake pedal as we can straighten out. We've got as much done with the footboard and shifter that we can do. We cut the rear shift link off so that it's just a front toe shift. New shifter arm on this guy. We'll get the seat back on and I will go give it a test ride in the morning. And we will see if we can get it to shift gears. That was another issue with the arm being broken. The customer was not able to get it to shift. So now that the arm is not interfering with anything, we should be good to go. So we'll see you guys in the morning when we take it for a test ride. Peace. Good morning, guys. It is the next morning. I worked on this a little bit off camera last night. We were able to figure out some issues, chase down some wiring problems from the ignition switch, and got it figured out, chased it back to the starter solenoid. I had a spare in some parts that I had, so I threw that on, and now this thing is completely turnkey. See, we got headlight here. Kill the kill switch, or disengage the kill switch, and we got crank. So we will get some fuel to this thing and get it fired up and get it warmed up. Go test ride it real quick before we drop it back off to the customer. So hang in there with me and let's get this thing outside and on the road. Come on, old girl. Okay. Yep. You're fucking kidding me. Okay, so let's check the battery voltage real quick. What the heck? Y'all get a heck of a view right now. Sorry, not sorry. Check the voltage here. I got 12 volts. Alright. Let's get it on a jump box. Try some start fluid. We're gonna let that charge for a minute. See what we're getting on real quick. Push the 13. I don't know. So, between last night, it fired right up. I got video of it. I'll throw the clip in here. It turned off. And this morning, something done happened. All right, we got a charge coming into it now. So let's let it get over 14. It's at 13.35 right now. Let's let it get over 14. And then we'll see if it's in neutral. It shouldn't be that the kickstand's down. We took the sensor off the top of the kickstand. The wires were cut anyway, so that shouldn't be making the motor not turn over. It would actually make it not even get power. It wouldn't crank. I'm hearing the solenoid click. We changed that last night, so all of that's good. I didn't change any fuses after I got it to fire over, so not really worried about any of that. So let's leave it on the charger and see what happens. All right, let's see what kind of voltage we have now. All right, 14. That's good. This thing should crank. Yeah. All right. Battery voltage was the problem. Key off. All right, battery voltage was the problem. We got it above 14 volts and it fired right over. So let's get the seat back on. Get the positive terminal covered. Back with its little rubber. Kind of like me, used to using little rubbers. All right, now that it'll crank up, let's jump on it and take it around the block, see if this will get it fixed for our customer and see if we can drop it off today. That is the goal. So let's go. having some shifting problems. I think it's backwards. At least it feels backwards to me because I'm used to Harley, but it's so weird, bro. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode of us getting this customer's bike back on the road. As you can tell, there's always gonna be a few hard parts that you're gonna need to fix after a bike has been wrecked, but have no fear, you can get a wrecked bike back on the road and enjoy some miles on it. So let's get this back over to the customer's house, and he will be giving me a ride back in his car, so I get to enjoy a little bit of two-wheel time this morning. So appreciate you guys, and we'll see you next week on Rubber and Chrome. Peace.